A glass cottage. Because apparently someone in Copperdale decided walls were optional. But who would build something like that? So I may have accidentally invented transparent cottagecore. I wanted to see if I could build a cozy cottage made entirely out of glass, which sounds like a terrible idea if you value things like privacy or insulation. But hear me out. I imagined this place belonging to a slightly eccentric art teacher, someone who says things like, light is the real furniture, and believes that brushes are merely suggestions, not tools. It's built in the heart of autumn, so everything outside is glowing oranges, reds, deep greens. And I wanted the house to feel like it's catching all of that warmth and reflecting it back, kind of like a lantern tucked in the woods. I will be very honest with you all, I wasn't sure if it would work, but it somehow, I hope, turned out whimsical instead of weird. I think. You'll have to tell me if this counts as cottagecore or if I've just created a very expensive greenhouse. So today, my friends, we are building a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom cottage with entirely glass walls. That means every single wall, including the half walls, have to be covered with the glass wallpaper. And this challenge is something I have wanted to try my hand at for a while, but I had to get my head around how I was going to make those very private spaces, the bathroom, the bedroom, how I was going to make those work. And I cannot wait to show you what I came up with. By the way, if you're enjoying this little transparent adventure so far, it would mean the absolute world to me if you hit like and subscribe to my channel, Sims Builds and Chill. Let's keep the magic from cracking and the cozy vibes flowing. So, as you can see, my friends, we are working on a 3-story cottage right now, which might seem like a lot for a cozy little cottage, but I think we were able to stop it from looking too big and overwhelming by sinking it into the ground like this and making that lower level really secluded, facing away from the hustle and bustle of the fairground and towards this beautiful view we have over this way. If you've been watching some of my videos lately, you might have noticed that I've been really into bedrooms on the ground floor or the lower floor. There's something so secluded and cozy and safe feeling about them. And also here, that is what is going to give us that privacy as well, having this hill on almost 3 sides with just part of the bedroom poking out towards the view. And I know what you might be thinking, oh, so out of the windows, I'm just going to see dirt and earth. Ugh, how boring. But I promise you, we are going to find a way to make this really, really beautiful and really, really nice. So stick with me. This is one of those times when I have to ask you to trust the process. And the other exciting thing that this allows me to do is to make it look like the lower floor is almost floating on a lake. And along with the glass walls, it gives the whole building a real sense of weightlessness, which I really love. On the middle floor, we're going to have a little dining room, a little kitchen, a study room come library, and a little reading nook as well. And then on the top floor, that is going to be our living room / hobby room. Sometimes a single moment changes everything. And for her, it started with the morning she finally cleaned her windows. She'd been living in her family's old cottage near Plumbite Pier, the same one where her mum used to make hot cocoa after long fairground nights. It was cozy, familiar, and perhaps just a little too dim. As an art teacher at Copperdale High, she spent her days helping students find their light. Meanwhile, hers had gone a little bit dusty, literally. So one Saturday, she finally dragged out the sponge, muttered something about responsible adulting, and started cleaning those tiny cottage windows. By the time she'd reached the last pane, sunlight poured through so brightly, she actually laughed. Why stop at the windows, she thought. Let's clean all the walls. That ridiculous little joke sparked something real. She didn't just want to tidy up, she wanted to create. Create something new, something that caught the light just like her happiest memories of the pier. The lanterns, the laughter, the glow across the water. In that moment, she imagined a cottage made entirely of glass. one where morning light could dance across her easel and shift with the seasons. That flash of inspiration wouldn't let her rest. She knew she had to build it. But the question was, could she really leave her old family cottage behind? I forgot that cottage living came with these counters in this wonderful red swatch. I just love the richness and warmth of these. Now, I did have to be a little bit careful when pairing it with green because I didn't want to go too Christmas. I wanted to stay firmly rooted in fall. Although actually, now I think about it, that is going to be a lovely transitional color as the seasons change. And I was able to tie a lot of similar red tones along with oranges and yellows in on this floor as well. And what you can see I'm doing here is I'm just trying to map out our layout and how it's all going to work. One of the biggest challenges with the kitchen in particular was I didn't want to have the back of the cabinets facing the glass window because I was trying to think how it would look from the outside as well as the inside. So what I settled on was having a slightly sunken level for the kitchen and for the study area, and then having the dining room elevated up a little bit, and then placing the cabinets along the partition. And what I found during this build was I had to find really creative ways to suggest a wall where there wasn't one. And that's what I'm doing here. On the other side, I used bookshelves to back up against our kitchen cabinets and create the suggestion of the wall. And even though this might be slightly unrealistic, having the cabinets like this, in the world of The Sims, in the world of the game and the story that we're trying to create here, I was really pleased with how it worked. Not least because it allowed us more freedom. If we turned on the Move Objects cheat, we could create this kitchen the exact size we wanted because we weren't stuck on the grid like we would be if we were using conventional walls. So actually, this was an example of how the restriction created freedom as well. One of the other things I was trying to get my head around when I was coming up with the idea for this build was, how am I going to make doors look natural here? The front door, for example, would it look strange having a door on a glass wall? And you can see here I came to the conclusion that yes, it did look a little strange. So I got around this with columns, and I used the columns to suggest panes of glass. And then I was able to place a door between the columns to make it look like the columns were what was supporting the structure. And I ended up using quite a lot of columns around the outside of the build in different ways, but I think it just made the cottage feel more sturdy and reliable and realistic as well. Now, let me know what you think about this. I did put some windows on the glass wallpaper, which I know probably seems really redundant, but hear me out. I was trying to create a cottage that looked almost like a patchwork blanket and had the same personality and warmth and the same feeling of creativity as well. So not only did I use many different types of glass wallpaper throughout this build in different areas to keep things interesting and light and fun, but I also used windows in between the columns in some places, and I tried to make them look as random as possible, and this was one very controversial decision in my house. My husband did not like this choice. He came in and he looked and he was like, "What are you doing?" But in my defense, I was going for eccentricity and I was going for a sense of freedom in the build. Maybe this is the time to do something that we wouldn't normally do. So let me know. Do you like it? Does it work here? Or should I have left out the windows? And the other thing I liked about them as well is I used mostly windows and doors from Cottage Living. In fact, I might have used entirely windows and doors from Cottage Living when I did use them. And I hope that this created a cottagecore energy in what could have become a very cold and sterile, almost brutalist glass structure. I thought about how I was going to get a cozy fireplace into this build. Because what is a cottage without a cozy fireplace, I ask you? But the challenge was fire and glass aren't known to be best friends. So I couldn't really have a hot fireplace up against the wall if we were going for any sense of realism, which I admit might be long gone by now, but I still wanted to try and think of a way that we could make this work. So I used this column, which is called the Fossil 4-pillar column from Get Together, and I liked how it was a similar color to the fireplace I chose, and how it had these nice brick elements which really do evoke the feeling of a chimney breast. And I placed that behind the fireplace so we could imagine that this is the chimney. And then I was thinking, oh, it doesn't really look like a chimney though, because it doesn't have the flues, the holes that you would get in the top of a normal chimney, and this bothered me. So I ended up sticking this Enchanted by Nature chimney out of the top of the column, and my hope was that this would create a sense of whimsy and fun and playfulness and bring those little crooked house vibes that cottages sometimes have. Bring an almost fairy tale element to this glass build. I have never ever done something like this before, and I cannot imagine a situation when I would do it again, but it really forced me to think a little differently about some of the pieces we have in the game. So let me know what you think of this chimney. Does it give us cozy cottage vibes, or does it just look a little bit weird? Building a house entirely out of glass? Some would call it impossible. She called it a midlife art project gone wonderfully wrong. She started sketching late into the night. Napkin doodles, lesson plans turned into blueprints. The design became a reflection of her life. Open, curious, maybe a little bit unhinged. She wanted the new home to keep her mother's light alive, not by clinging to the past, but by reframing it. In her design, from her easel, she could see the fairground's light shimmering on the water like tiny brushstrokes of memory. And yet, a quiet guilt crept in. The family cottage had held so many stories. Could she really walk away? Maybe, she told herself. I'm not walking away. Maybe I'm just moving towards the light. She experimented with layouts, tested how Sims could move through the glass walls without walking into them. Well, most of the time. And she found playful ways to build privacy into openness, using art, flowers, and plants. Her sketches were ready, her mind was set. But how do you build a dream that fragile without breaking it? What you can see I'm doing now is I'm trying to make our almost underground bedroom and bathroom feel beautiful rather than like you are rolling in the dirt. So I am placing these lovely flowers and bushes on the slope that almost snuggles the house. I really love these colors when it's fall. They are just so warm and so beautiful. And this took me quite a while to cover the whole hill. I thought maybe we could pretend that these are shade-loving plants because they would have to be. So we're choosing plants that don't require a lot of sunlight and that can thrive in their lovely little underground home. I think with the water, it would probably feel nice and cool down here. Because let's face it, a glass house is probably a nightmare to cool in the summer. So it might be helpful to have an area that's almost subterranean, especially the area where our sim is going to be sleeping, to just kind of help that along a little bit, help keep it cool by using what I was thinking could be the natural slope of the land. I ended up raising the level of the bedroom to match the water level of the lake, and I thought this would be a nice way to add a little bit more coziness and cottage vibes. You know how so many cottages, especially if they're very old, they might have really low roofs because they've been there for hundreds of years, and hundreds of years ago people were smaller, so they didn't have such a need for high ceilings. So I'm just trying to bring in a few little ways that we can try and give cottage energy here. And especially in the bedroom, I wanted this to feel really lovely and snug. What you can see I'm doing now is I'm trying to create a usable deck area because this isn't a huge lot. I think I'm right in saying it's just a 20 by 20 lot. Yes, it is. It's a 20 by 20 lot. So I was hoping that we could use this deck as our primary outdoor area, a place for additional hobbies or painting or grilling with friends and eating. Because even though this house connects her to the outside, even when she's inside, I still wanted her to have a lovely outdoor area too. Here you can see I'm trying to find ways to screen off the bathroom a little bit because even though our sim lives alone, I thought it might be a bit much if she had guests over and they go down here to use the bathroom and there's just a pane of glass so anyone at the top of the stairs could look in. So what I decided to do was use these cabinets. These are the modern Victorian cabinets from the Vampire Pack and place them with their back against the glass. And I thought, what amazing storage for our bathroom. Number one. And then also they provide the perfect screen to give a little bit of privacy in here. And actually I surprised myself, even though this bathroom has all glass walls, it ended up feeling so private and so cozy, almost like you're bathing outside without actually needing to be outside. And then what you can see I'm doing now is I'm sinking down part of the bathroom because, like I was saying with the kitchen cabinet, it didn't make a lot of sense to me to have things like the toilet and the sink up against those glass walls. I mean, maybe it's doable in real life, but I have never seen it. So I thought maybe all of the plumbing and all of that stuff, maybe that's in this raised level here so we can back our toilet and our sink against the edge of the platform. And this was very satisfying to me, and then it does leave the perfect space for a lovely bathtub. And because we're not technically underground, we're not on a basement level exactly, but because we are kind of sunken into the hill here, sunken into the ground, because you end up going down again to the bathtub, it felt to me like this room just had a lovely connection to the earth and to nature, which is really lovely. I would love a bathroom like this. And then also, of course, it's slightly below the waterline. So it's almost like being immersed in the water itself. And then likewise, of course, I thought we'd need a private area for dressing, so I used this fence. This is a simple fence from the base game. That's what it's actually called, a simple fence. I'm not calling it a simple fence. In the game, it's called a simple fence and it's in the base game. But I liked it because it's quite tall, so it gives quite a lot of privacy when you're dressing. And then I nestled in two of these lovely wardrobes, which are from Businesses and Hobbies. With the Move Objects cheat held on, I kind of shuffled them together and tried to make them look almost like one unit back here. I was actually so pleased with how much storage we were able to get into these not huge spaces without actually needing to press anything up against the external walls. We're back up on the main level now and we're focusing on the dining room. And guys, when I say I was so pleased with this rug, this is the replica Rangoli design in florals. And it's from the free holiday stuff we got. It comes in some really fun colors and designs. And I sized it up and kind of shuffled it into this nook that we have here under the dining table. And I just thought these colors were absolutely perfect. They are so warm and they look so fun how they're almost blooming out from the base of this table. The table itself and the chairs are from the cottage living pack, and you might have noticed that I am including as many cottage living elements as possible to bring the cottagecore vibes as much as I possibly could. I positioned these classic room dividers around the stairs. I just thought it added another element, another pattern with these lovely hexagonal shapes, and also gave us a place that made sense to nestle the cabinet. This runner I put down by the door is from the Vampires pack, and I really like this one because it comes with two end pieces and a middle piece, so you can make it as long or as short as you want, and it works so well for so many different spaces. And it also came in this lovely swatch which had that red color we were looking for. Now you can see I'm working on the kitchen, and it's so funny how sometimes some of the areas you think are going to be the most challenging are the ones that come together so naturally. Once I cemented in my head how I was going to position the cabinets so that they weren't all backing onto the glass walls, I had a real field day in this little kitchen. And talk about a kitchen with a view as well. There are a lot of pieces from cottage living in here as well. The cabinets, as I think I mentioned, the sink, the fridge. The stove is actually base game. There is a cottage living stove we could have used in the same red swatch, but I decided to try something a little different here, so I used this one from the base game. I like how it's got the wood piling up underneath. There's something so cute and homey and cozy about it. Maybe we can pretend that our Sim's mother had a similar stove and she's trying to bring back those fond memories of seeing her cooking all her favorite treats in the kitchen here. And then I just cluttered it up with some fun things that were in appropriate colors. A little coffee pot, some wine, a vegetable bowl. It's got these lovely red peppers and this yellow, I think that's a yellow squash in there as well, some flowers. I put another little kettle on top of the fridge because you can never have too many kettles. Unfortunately, these ones aren't functional. I did have a functional one down for a little while at first, but I thought maybe it might be better to have more functional cabinet space instead. If you decide to play here, you can certainly bring it back if you like that idea. With a paintbrush in one hand and a hammer in the other, she began the messy, glorious process of turning art into architecture. The early days were chaotic. Let's just say there were more than a few shattered panes and one highly judgmental neighbor who muttered, "So, no curtains then?" But piece by piece, the dream took shape. And soon, a whole community of curious Sims, her students, her friends, people she didn't even know, joined her on site to help her build her dream. As her new home came together, every beam of light that filtered through the glass reminded her of painting with her mum at the pier, the way they'd chase the perfect sunset color together as the fair lights came on. And for the first time in years, she wasn't just teaching art, she was living it. Each glass wall became a brushstroke in a painting she could step inside. Her build grew slowly. She painted, napped, and occasionally ran into invisible panes, but it was all part of the process. As the last windows settled into place, she couldn't help but wonder, would living inside her own masterpiece feel as magical as she imagined? I was trying to think of different ways we could use color to create a harmony with the season of fall. So I tried to give each level of the house a kind of primary fall color. So down in the bedroom, we go for a rich emerald green. On the kitchen level, it's primarily red. In the dining level, it's orange. And on the top level, I went more for golds and browns. And I just thought maybe this will stop it from feeling all too samey. Maybe we could celebrate a different color of fall as the primary color on each level. Up here ended up being one of my favorite spaces. I really enjoyed trying to make it cozy and open at the same time. I don't know about you, but sometimes playing with those oppositions in design can be really fun. I put down a couple of cozy armchairs, a little TV. She's got an office nook with lots of houseplants. I think we've definitely established that she's into plants now. And then perhaps the most important feature of the whole build is this lovely easel looking out at the view. I tried to angle everything in this room towards that wonderful view, that place that holds so many happy memories for our Sim. So whether she's painting or using her computer or knitting or watching TV or tending to her houseplants, she only needs to cast her eyes in this direction and she's reconnected with all those wonderful moments. I also put down the little cross-stitch box as well because I thought maybe as an artist she has a favorite way to express herself with painting, but maybe she also likes to dabble in other methodologies as well. Methodologies? Did I use that word right there? I'm not sure if I did. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to use. Other approaches to art. Anyway, either way, I put down the cross-stitch kit here to give her another activity that she could do in this space. I made this deck a celebration of autumn. This pumpkin trio is from the Seasons pack, and I put it down in different swatches and made them different sizes so it didn't look too repetitive. It looks like we have all these really fun, different colored pumpkins out here in just really gorgeous colors. I also put down Patchy, who's also from the Seasons pack. He's this scarecrow that we can see here, and he has another couple of pumpkins at his base. And he's probably intended to look over crops and make sure there's no pesky crows pecking at them. But I thought he worked really well here as a little kind of porch decoration, welcoming our Sim home. I know a lot of people don't like scarecrows, so I hope that's not too creepy. But for me, I just thought he was really cute. He's got one arm up like he's trying to wave or something like that. And then the Horn o' Plenty, that is also from the Seasons pack. So as I say, I just tried to make this a celebration of harvest and fall and all those lovely, warm, cozy feelings that this time of year brings. Around Around the side, we have her little grilling, eating area. The grill is from For Rent, and it is perhaps a little bit much for a home grill, I know. It's definitely meant to be a street stall or something like that. But I was trying to think, how could our sim have got her hands on something like this? Maybe she either designed it from scratch or it was gifted to her by a friend who was retiring. And I just love that it came in just the right color, and thinking about how many of her friends she could feed from this just made me really happy. It just felt like a really lovely gathering area here. Our picnic table is from Island Living. The little picnic basket is from Cottage Living. And then these very nice candles are from Dine Out. I really wanted this build to feel like a lantern in the forest, a welcoming beacon. Let's be honest, our sim, she is not shy and she does not mind being illuminated after dark. So I adorned it with lights as much as I could and had a really lovely time lighting this place up on the inside and on the outside. These ones I'm putting around the outside now, they are from the base game. But inside we also have some cottage living lights, we have some fairy lights. We also even managed to get some dream home decorator lights in the bedroom. I know, very fancy. Also around the outside she has a chess table because those are always useful and always fun. She also has a little seating area with some lovely hot cocoa for those cool autumn evenings. She has yet more plant pots where she can plant more of her beloved flowers. And then I was thinking, maybe these mosaics, maybe this was some kind of art installation that her students did for her, creating something really personal. This piece is from the City Living expansion pack, and I thought our sim would just love all the different colors and the vibrancy of it, and also the thought behind it as well. If we're saying that this is something that was created for her, I just imagine this sim to be someone that everyone loves. She's got a big heart, she's warm, she's funny, she's a little bit eccentric, you never know exactly what she's going to say, but she is just really nice to be around, and that is what draws people to her. I did make the decision to put some vines around the house. Several different pieces of ivy. Most of these are from the Enchanted by Nature pack, and I tried to make them look as natural as possible, like they were growing up the columns or hanging from the roof. I thought it might just go some way to softening this glass structure and helping it melt together with the landscape around it. I think we're also going to have the rebellious ivy trellis from the high school years pack as well in a couple of places. Let me know what you think about this idea. I didn't want to do it too much because I didn't want to lose the views. So I tried to think about ways that I could frame the views rather than obstruct them, or where I can put the pieces that it was going to matter least. And then, as I say, I tried to position them over the columns or only partially covering the windows, so they almost frame the view or tease the view rather than obscure it. Stepping inside, she realized she hadn't just built a house, she'd built a memory made new. Light rippled across the floor, sketchbook glowed in the sun, and the pier's lanterns danced on the water just beyond her glass walls. Every corner reflected her, eccentric, hopeful, and a little chaotic, but all the time deeply alive. Her cottage wasn't a goodbye to her old life, it was a continuation of it, a place where her past could shimmer beyond her present. And every morning, as sunlight poured through the glass, she whispered the same thing she told her students. Art isn't about perfection. It's about showing up and letting the light in. Now she paints through the seasons, hosts open-air art classes, and sometimes just watches the fair lights flicker across the lake, proof that you can hold your memories close without standing still. And yet, this is only the beginning. Who knows what surprises might come next in a house made entirely of light. If you enjoyed today's build and you'd like to play here too, I'm going to put it on the gallery. I'll call it Glass Fall Cottage. And you can also find all of my creations by searching for the hashtag SimsBuildsChill. If you're still in a glassy mood, you might like Honeycomb House. Same obsession with windows, slightly more geometry, and at least 3 fewer existential crises.